After 3 years, I found my son living in the storehouse of his own home, and the moment I realized he was hiding out there, something in my chest tightened in a way I had never felt before. The words from my daughter-in-law replayed in my head long before she ever said them out loud. He does not need a room in this house. I did not know yet how cruel those words truly were. My name is Lydia Corwin. I am 62. I had delayed this visit, telling myself he was busy with work, that his marriage had changed his routine, but guilt tugged at me harder each week, that the silence between us was temporary. Still, guilt followed me all the way to Maple Bluff, sitting heavy beside me in the passenger seat. 3 years of strained phone calls had turned into 3 years of almost nothing. When I pulled into his driveway, the yard felt strangely still. The porch light was off despite the cloudy afternoon. I walked toward the back gate, hoping Noah might simply appear and smile like he used to. That was when I heard it, a faint shuffle, behind the old storehouse, a building that once held garden tools and winter tires. The sound was soft, but unmistakably human. I moved closer, calling Noah's name under my breath. No response. Only another soft movement inside. My fingers curled around the cold latch. I hesitated, feeling the weight of every unanswered call, every uneasy night I had spent wondering if my son was truly all right. I pushed gently on the door, letting it creak open just enough for the darkness inside to breathe toward me. The door stuck halfway, swollen from years of neglect, but I pressed my shoulder into it until it jolted free. A cold draft swept over me. At first, I couldn't see anything, just shadows layered over clutter. Then a shape shifted in the corner. Noah. My voice came out thinner than I meant. He lifted his head slowly. My son, my grown, kind, soft-spoken boy was curled on a thin camping mattress, knees pulled toward his chest. His cheeks were hollow, his hair longer than I'd ever seen it, and his eyes carried the kind of exhaustion that settles deep in the bones. "Mom?" His voice cracked. "You weren't supposed to see this." I stepped inside without thinking. The air was colder than outside, sharp enough to sting my lungs. A small space heater sat beside him, cold and unused. Cans of soup lined the floor like a rationed supply. 2 slices of bread rested on a paper towel, already drying out around the edges. "Noah, look at you," I whispered. He flinched, tugging his sleeves down, as if ashamed to let me see how much weight he'd lost. When I reached out, his hands shook so badly the mattress rustled beneath him. "Does she know you're out here?" I asked gently. He swallowed hard. "Mom, please don't start anything." His eyes darted toward the house. "She'll hear." "I don't care if she hears," I said, sitting beside him. "This isn't living. This isn't—" I stopped myself as he closed his eyes, as if bracing for a blow that wasn't coming from me. He whispered, "It's easier this way." I looked around the cold, cramped storehouse at the food measured out like punishment, at the blankets, too thin for a Wisconsin winter, at the son who once filled rooms with laughter now hiding in a place meant for tools. Something inside me shifted, slow and heavy, and I knew this was only the beginning. "Noah," I said softly, "we're going inside. You can barely feel your fingers." He opened his mouth, but another voice cut through the storehouse before he could speak. "What are you doing out here?" Riley stood in the doorway, framed by the weak afternoon light. Her arms were crossed, her chin lifted just enough to make it clear who held the power in this house. She didn't look surprised to see me, only irritated, like I'd interrupted something she considered hers. "I came to see my son," I said, rising from the mattress, "and I'd like to know why he's sleeping out here." Riley gave a short laugh. "Lydia, he prefers it. He likes his space. You know how he is." She stepped closer, her voice sweet but sharp underneath. Privacy helps him stay calm. Noah's shoulders tightened. He kept his eyes on the floor. That's not what he told me, I said. Riley's smile dropped. Well, he changes his mind a lot. You know that too. No, Noah whispered, shrinking back. Riley, please, she turned on him instantly. You said you were fine. You said you needed time to think. He nodded without lifting his head. I could see it clearly now, the way he folded in on himself when she spoke, as if every word pressed him smaller. I stepped forward. He's freezing. He's exhausted. This isn't a workspace or a hobby shed. It's a place for boxes and tools. Not a bedroom. Riley's eyes hardened. He doesn't need a room in this house. Things are tight. And for now, this works. He didn't fight me, he's scared. Lydia, you know how he is. Noah's breath hitched. I looked from him to her, and the truth settled in my chest with a weight I couldn't ignore. Something was very wrong with the way this home worked, and I wasn't leaving without understanding exactly why. I came back the next morning with a few grocery bags, nothing special. Just soup, bread, fruit, things Noah used to eat when he was stressed in college. I found him sitting on the edge of the mattress, staring at the floor like he'd been frozen there all night. I brought food, I said, keeping my voice steady. He stood too fast, reaching for the bag in my hand. The moment his fingers curled around the handle, he gasped and pulled back. The bag swung, hitting his leg before he caught it with his other hand. Noah. What was that? I asked quietly. It's nothing, he said, but the tremble in his voice told the truth. His sleeve slipped just enough for me to see the edge of a bruise near his wrist, dark, swollen, shaped like fingers. When he turned, the hem of his shirt lifted slightly, revealing more bruising along his ribs. I didn't touch him. I just said his name. He sank onto the mattress, shoulders shaking. Mom, please don't make this worse. I'm not the one making it worse, I said. He covered his face. I lost my job 3 months ago. Riley said she'd handle the finances until I got back on my feet. She took my cards, my phone, everything. She said it was temporary. And the bruises, I asked. He flinched. We argued over my cards and phone. She told me I couldn't have them back unless I followed her rules, contribute financially. Stay out of the main house. I felt trapped. His voice broke. I thought I could fix it. I thought if I just tried harder. I knelt beside him. This isn't your fault. None of it. He grabbed my wrist, desperate. Mom, please don't start anything. If she thinks you're interfering, she'll make it worse. His fear filled the room thicker than the cold. And for the first time, I understood just how far Riley had already pushed him, long before I ever opened that storehouse door. Noah sat with his back against the wall, fingers twisting the edge of the blanket. I could tell he was choosing his words carefully, the way people do when the truth has cut them too many times. It didn't start like this, he said quietly. At first it was little things. Riley saying I was too soft with money, that I didn't understand how marriage worked, that you influenced me too much. I felt that last part like a sting. She said that. He nodded, all the time. She'd ask why I called you so often, why I asked you for advice. She said I needed to grow up and stop depending on you. And I thought, maybe she was right. He looked exhausted just saying it. She monitored my work hours, criticized every late shift, and managed the finances so tightly I felt I couldn't touch a checkbook without permission. If I worked late, she said I was avoiding her. One night she threw my phone across the room because I didn't answer fast enough. I felt anger sharpen inside me, but I kept my voice steady. Why didn't you tell me any of this? He let out a bitter half laugh. I was ashamed. I didn't want you to see me as someone who couldn't hold his life together. And every time I tried to reach out, she found a way to make it seem like I was choosing you over her. Is that why you stopped visiting? I asked. He nodded again. She said having boundaries meant keeping distance from anything that upset her. And somehow, you became one of those things. My breath caught. So much of the last 3 years suddenly rearranged itself in my mind. Every short call, every canceled holiday, every message that sounded strangely formal. Noah hadn't chosen silence. Someone else had chosen it for him. And sitting in that cold storehouse, I understood that silence was the first cage Riley ever built around my son. I stayed with Noah until he drifted into a shallow sleep, his breathing thin and uneven. When I stepped outside, the cold hit my face, but it wasn't the wind that kept me awake. It was the way he'd whispered, "She'll make it worse." That kind of fear didn't appear overnight. I waited until Riley left the main house for an evening walk before slipping back into the storehouse, phone in hand, to document everything: the thin mattress, the unplugged heater, the half-empty cans. The bruises he tried to hide, none of it could stay undocumented. I took photos one by one, keeping the shutter silent. Every image felt like proof of something I didn't want to admit out loud yet. When I left, a porch light flicked on at the house next door. Mrs. Halverson, Noah's elderly neighbor, peeked out. "Oh, Lydia," she whispered, pulling her robe tight. "I thought I heard someone. Is everything all right?" I shook my head. "Did you notice anything unusual with Noah?" She frowned. "Last winter I heard shouting, loud enough I almost called someone. Noah said it was a misunderstanding, but..." She hesitated. The boy looked scared. My stomach clenched. "Thank you for telling me. Back home, I didn't even take off my coat." I dialed a number I'd kept for years, Mara Jensen, a retired social worker who'd handled domestic cases for over 2 decades. She answered on the second ring. "Lydia, it's late. I know," I said, my voice shaking. "I think my son's in trouble. Real trouble. Tell me everything." I did. Every bruise, every rule, every whisper of fear. When I finished, she said, "This isn't just stress or a bad marriage. This is control, and he's isolated. You need to document everything." "I started tonight," I said. "Good. And Lydia? Don't confront her alone." I stared at the dark window, seeing Noah's bowed head reflected back at me. I didn't plan to stay quiet, not anymore. I got Noah into my car just after sunrise, before Riley even woke up. He sat, hunched, in the passenger seat, sleeves pulled over his hands. "She'll be angry," he whispered. "She can be angry," I said. "You're coming with me." At the clinic, the nurse glanced at the bruises along his wrist and ribs. "What happened here?" Noah froze. I answered for him. "He fell." The nurse gave me a look, one that said she didn't believe a word of it, but she guided him inside. When the doctor entered, Noah finally broke. "I didn't fall," he said softly. "She pushed me. Twice." The doctor didn't flinch. "Thank you for telling me. I'm noting physical injury, malnutrition concerns, and psychological distress." She looked at me. "Keep these records. They matter." I kept every page. By afternoon, after carefully photographing and cataloging evidence, I met Erin Malik, a family law attorney. She read through the photos and medical notes without interrupting. When she finished, she folded her hands. "This is coercive control," she said. "Financial abuse, isolation. You've documented more than most cases bring in the first meeting. I need to protect him," I said. "You're already doing it. Next step is financial documentation. Bank records, text messages. Any attempt to pressure him legally." I nodded. "I can get those." And I did sooner than expected. That evening, as I approached the house, I heard Riley's voice from the kitchen, sharp and urgent. "Noah, just sign it. We can refinance now and take over the mortgage before rates rise." "It's smart." "I don't want to sign anything," he said. "You don't get to want." She snapped. "We need control of this house before someone else tries to step in." My chest tightened. There it was, her motive. Laid bare. I stood silently in the doorway, listening, returning every word to memory. She thought she was untouchable. What she didn't know was that I'd already put my foot on the first crack beneath her feet. Riley called the family meeting. Unaware that I'd already documented everything and had legal counsel on standby, I found Noah already sitting at the table, shoulders tense, eyes fixed on his hands. Riley stood at the head of the table as if she owned every inch of the house. "Sit, Lydia," she said. "We need to talk about your behavior." I pulled out a chair slowly. "All right, let's talk." Riley folded her arms. "You've been interfering, sneaking around, filling Noah's head with nonsense." "Whatever happened to respecting boundaries?" Noah whispered. "Riley, please don't." She cut him off. "No, she needs to hear this. You don't get to just walk into our lives and cause chaos because you're lonely." I kept my voice calm. "I'm not here to cause chaos. I'm here because my son is living in a storehouse with bruises." Riley let out a sharp laugh. "Bruises? He's clumsy, and the storehouse is his choice." "You're twisting everything." I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. Riley's eyes flicked to it, but she kept her expression steady. "What's that?" she asked. "Documentation," I said. "Medical records from the clinic, photos of the storehouse, notes from a neighbor who heard shouting last winter." Riley's jaw tightened. "You had no right to do any of that, and you had no right to put him out there," I said. She stepped closer, trying to tower over me. "I am his wife, not you. I know what's best for him. That's exactly why I brought someone." I stood and opened the den door. Erin Malik stepped inside, briefcase in hand, her voice calm. "Good evening. I'm Noah's counsel." Riley froze, color draining from her face. "Counsel? For what?" Erin placed a stack of papers on the table. "For the protection of his rights, safety, and property." Riley's breath hitched. You can't be serious." Noah finally lifted his head. "She is, and for the first time since I'd walked into this house, the silence belonged to us, not her." Erin set her briefcase on the dining table, the soft click of the latches cutting through the tension like a blade. Riley stood frozen beside the counter, hands clenched, eyes darting between me, Noah, and the attorney. "This has gone far enough," she said, her voice wobbling at the edges. "You can't just bring a lawyer into my home." "It's Noah's home," Erin corrected gently, "and I'm here because his safety and rights have been compromised." Riley's face snapped toward Noah. "You let her do this. You let your mother turn you against me." Noah didn't shrink this time. He lifted his chin, though his voice was soft. "I didn't let anyone do anything. You pushed me out there." Riley flinched. "I was helping you. You were overwhelmed. You couldn't keep up." I slid the first folder across the table. Medical documentation from the clinic, bruising, weight loss, psychological distress. Riley's breath stuck in her throat. "He bruises easily. He's always bruised easily." Erin opened another file. "We've compiled bank statements showing withdrawals made without Noah's consent, funds shifted into an account under your control." Riley backed up, shaking her head hard. "It wasn't like that. He said I could manage things I didn't." Noah said quietly. "You told me I couldn't be trusted with my own money." Her lips trembled. "I was trying to help." I placed the last set of photos on the table. The storehouse, the mattress, the empty cans, the unplugged heater. Riley's hand flew to her mouth. "Lydia, don't do this. Please. We can fix this privately." Erin spoke calmly. "The charges for coercive control and financial abuse in Wisconsin are serious. This isn't something that stays private." Riley's voice cracked. "Please. I'm begging you. Don't file anything. Don't ruin my life." I looked at Noah. His eyes were wet, but he stood straighter than I'd seen in months. "No," he said, You don't get to ask for mercy when you never gave any. Riley let out a broken breath and sank into a chair, unraveling in front of us. For the first time, she understood the weight of everything she had done, and for the first time, Noah understood he didn't have to live under it anymore. Riley packed her things the next morning under Aaron's supervision, her hands shaking the entire time. She didn't look at Noah, not once. When she stepped outside with her last box, she paused on the porch. "Please, don't go through with the charges," she whispered. Noah didn't move toward her. "I'll handle the paperwork with Aaron," he said. Steady for the first time in years, Riley swallowed hard, stepped off the porch, and left the property. The door shut behind her with a finality that settled over the house like a long exhale. Noah stood in the hallway, staring at the closed door. "I don't know what happens now," he said. "We take it one step at a time," I told him, "starting with you moving out of that storehouse." We cleared out the mattress, the old cans, the blankets that held more cold than warmth. When Noah finally walked back into his own bedroom, he stopped at the doorway, fingertips resting on the frame like he wasn't sure he was allowed. "It feels strange," he said. "It'll feel right soon," I replied. That afternoon, Aaron connected him with a therapist who specialized in trauma. Noah agreed to start weekly sessions. We called the bank, began reversing unauthorized withdrawals, and set up new accounts in his name only. Every task felt like reclaiming one more inch of the life he'd lost. Later, he sat at the kitchen table with a bowl of soup I made, his hands steady for the first time since I'd arrived. "Mom," he said, voice soft, "thanks for not giving up on me." "I never did," I answered. And as he took another slow breath, filling his lungs without fear for the first time in a long while, I felt something settle inside me too. A quiet certainty that we were finally moving toward a future we could build together. If you'd like to hear what happened in the weeks after Riley left, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.